It's extremely rare for anyone on Scilly to get planning permission. There's been no building on St Agnes for 20 years. But he's been told that because the farm does need another full-time worker if it's to stand a chance of surviving, he might just get it.
It's basically a 2-floor timber frame house with a glass conservatory on the eastern end. 3 bedrooms. One may double as an office whilst we've only got 1 daughter, but who knows what will happen in the future.
So you really want to do this, do you?
Absolutely, yeah.
But everything completely depends on this planning application.
In a nutshell, yeah. It's obviously a pretty big U-turn in our life, but we think it's the right thing to do.
The Reverend Donald believes Sam's planning application could be a landmark decision, affecting lots more island youngsters in the future.
How important do you think it is that Sam Hicks gets his planning permission?
Oh, it's very important. Obviously, it's important for Sam and the family, but all the islands, and especially the young people, are watching it with great intent. We all hope very much that that consent is going to come through and they're going to be able to build their home on St Agnes.
Down at the Atlantic Inn, it's WPC Nikki Green's last night on Scilly. Even though she's been here only 6 months, Nikki's made lots of good friends amongst her police colleagues and islanders alike. And tonight, they're throwing a farewell party in her honour.
I love it, yeah. It's good fun.
You really love it?
Yeah, it's been good.
What is it that you love about it?
The atmosphere, the people, I've made some really good friends here and, I will miss them as well, so, it's torn a bit really. So...
Anyway, you made that decision now, so...
Yeah, decision made. Yeah, but I'm happy with that.
On the Isles of Scilly, there has always been, and probably always will be, a constant ebb and flow of people arriving and leaving, beginning new lives or ending old ones. First thing next morning, up at the airport, there are some emotional goodbyes. These are scenes familiar to the airport staff. The Scillys seem to have that effect on people. What the islanders don't know is that WPC Nikki Green intends to be back. And it'll happen rather sooner than even she expected. In the next programme, the lack of a vet on the islands is beginning to cause real concern.
The problem comes when we really do have an emergency, and we will. It's only a matter of time.
And in his mainland parish of Mullion, the villagers prepare to say their sad goodbyes to Father Guy and his family, with one of the biggest farewell parties anyone can remember.
Kate thought there might be some tears tonight.
I fear there might be. She's right, there'll be tears.
A young islander, Sam Hicks, has one last chance to fulfill his dream of returning to live on Scilly with his new young family.
There's no other way. There's very few places, certainly on Agnes, to come and rent. There's no other houses to buy on the island. It's really hard to get back, to be honest.
So you're putting all your hopes on this, is that right?
In a nutshell, yeah.
The lack of a vet on Scilly is causing real concern.
The problem comes when we really do have an emergency, and we will. It's only a matter of time.
And Father Guy reveals how anxious he is about taking up his new post as chaplain to the Isles in just a few weeks' time.
A lot of people have an expectation of what I might bring and what I might be able to do, and I just hope I can fulfil that.
On the Isles of Scilly, with the summer holidaymakers long since gone, the islanders are beginning to reclaim the place for themselves.
Boys, oh, let her go, boys. Oh, let her go, boys.
Each year, the Scillys are visited by over 120,000 people. But the resident population is tiny, less than 2% of that, just 2,000 people, equivalent to a small village on the mainland, spread across the 5 islands. Now, the island's population looks as though it might be about to expand by 3. Sam Hicks, who was born and brought up on St Agnes, dreams of quitting his job on the mainland to return home with his wife Laura and new baby Isla. Sam's father Tim is a dairy farmer and supplies milk to the whole island.
Here come the next 2. Come on, Jem.
If Sam can return, it'll ensure the survival of the business. But because there's simply no spare accommodation on the island, the only option is for Sam to build his own cottage beside his parents' farmhouse.
First door, just here.
Yeah, up the steps.
Rest of the house over that way.
Windows.
Kitchen.
Kitchen.
Windows looking out of
Nice
the garden, watching Isla playing in the garden.
Yeah. Not bad view from upstairs, I think.
I think it'll be all right upstairs.
The family have had an agonising wait to see if they'll get planning permission. Today, at the Turk's Head, the only pub on the island, and the most southwesterly pub in Britain, there's a modest celebration in progress. Sam and Laura Hicks have got their planning permission for what will be the first new building on the island for over 20 years.
Today.
Honestly,
And they need to know this.
need to know this.
We haven't bought the windows yet, so we need to.
Excellent.
It's an important first step on what will be a huge project for the family.
Laura, what do you think?
I was quite surprised at first. I had my doubts, but it was great, and yeah, surprised and just really chuffed.
We packed up back in Southampton and the Isle of Wight, and we made the move as soon as we got permission, because we know we've got to crack on with this during the winter.
And did you sense the local people here were behind you?
I had the hunch that St Agnes were on my side, yeah.
Yeah, they need you for the cricket team, amongst other things.
Oh, that's the real reason.
Well, that's a sign of how desperate they are, yeah.
Did it go through quite smoothly, or were there any objections, or what?
No, by all accounts, we were given full support by all the councillors. I think Mum and Dad went down to watch it. I think they might have come in here afterwards for a celebratory drink or two.
They certainly did.
But planning permission is just the first of many hurdles to overcome.
Yeah.
The logistics of building in such a remote place and island bureaucracy could prove something of a nightmare.
More sun coming in there, so actually.
Island issues have started more and more to preoccupy the mind of Father Guy Scott, who will shortly be taking over the post of chaplain to the Isles of Scilly. Today, he's on his way from his existing parish on the South Cornish mainland for a meeting with his boss, Bishop Bill, the Bishop of Truro.
Hello?
Bishop Bill wants a final briefing with Guy before he leaves for the Scillys.
Hi, Guy. How are you doing? Are you all right?
I'm all right, thanks, yeah.
Making friends with the dog.
Yeah, what's his name?
Her name is Lady, which is inaccurate, really. She's anything but a lady. She's a scrounger, aren't you?
Bishop Bill's acutely aware of Father Guy's worries and doubts about upping sticks and moving the family over to a completely new life on the islands.
No, so when are you actually physically moving to Scilly?
Well, the move begins on the 27th of this month.
It begins.
The packers
just
arrive.
after Christmas.
They start packing on the 27th, and then all our worldly goods, God willing, arrive a week later.
Yeah, you got lots of. You've made some contacts, haven't you?
Made some contact, yes, but yeah, steep learning curve.
Later, the bishop takes Guy on one side for a bit of a heart-to-heart.
Inevitably, there'll be changes. But I mean, what are you feeling about all of that? About moving? I mean, is that all right?
Excited and anxious at the same time. That a lot of people have an expectation of what I might bring and what I might be able to do, and I just hope I can fulfil that as a parish priest. I'm pretty anxious about saying goodbye. Because we're all very happy in the villages where we are now, and just saying goodbye to the people you love is difficult. Be quite emotional, but.
And you don't mind jumping out of boats and.
No, so far, so far so good. Haven't been sick either yet, but no, the time will tell.
Back on the little island of St Agnes, life is changing rapidly for Sam Hicks and his wife Laura. Whilst they're waiting for the new house to be built on his parents' farm, they can live in one of the farm's empty holiday chalets. They've already sold their house on the mainland. Sam's having daily lessons in the cowshed with his father Tim.
So she can come off. That's right. Turn the power off. Let a bit of air in. Off it drops.
6 and Sundance 5.
For Sam, this is no passing fad. He plans to take over the farm when his father retires and spend the rest of his life on the island.
Have you got to the hang of the names yet?
On the site of the new cottage, they've already cleared the topsoil and are now waiting to start the foundations.
As you can see, we've done the digging. We've excavated about 70 centimetres down to the ram level. And then we're just marking out to actually put in the foundation. So we'll be putting a sort of trench around the outside of this, on which we'll put the blocks. Blocks then come up, we'll then reach our floor level and then put the floor across. So it's really just sort of at the first stage of building. We hope to put the cement in tomorrow.
So you're going to build a house yourself?
Pretty much, yeah. We'll be getting sort of experts over to do each bit. We're not going to sort of cut corners on sort of, you know, block laying, you know, all these things you sort of think you can do. We're going to get an expert in to do each bit. But at each stage, there seem to be plenty of things for us to do to be getting involved.
It'll be a timber-framed house and put up in sections, which will be ferried over in a few weeks' time from the mainland. The whole thing could be up in just 3 months. But there's one potential problem which could yet completely upset their carefully worked-out plans. And it's all to do with the island's history. There's been human life on Scilly for thousands of years. These are the remarkably well-preserved remains of a small farming village which dates back to 200 BC. Above it is an ancient burial chamber dating back much further to 2000 BC, when the Scillys were just one big island. Later, subsidence and rising sea levels separated the hilltops into completely different islands. Scilly is one of the richest archaeological sites in Western Europe. And significantly, important remains have been found in fields adjacent to the Hicks farm. The Scilly's museum is overflowing with a treasure trove of artifacts illustrating almost every stage of the island's colourful history. One of the archaeologists here is Catherine Sawyer, who'll be paying particular interest to Sam and Laura's building work over on St Agnes. She has the power to derail their plans completely.
Because there are known archaeological sites not far from Troy Town Farm, there is an archaeological condition on the planning permission which requires an archaeologist to be present when groundworks are being dug in order to see whether there is anything of archaeological interest there. And if there is, then I will need to stop the development until I've established what it is, whether it's something that needs to be recorded, excavated and so on.
So you actually have the power to stop the building work?
Yes.
Now, if you do find something and work needs to be done, who picks up the bill?
The Hicks do.
They have to pay for the archaeological
Yes, that's right.
excavation?
Yeah.
So they really could be in trouble if you find something?
They could, unfortunately, yes.
Back on the farm site, Sam Hicks realises that a major intervention by the archaeologists could be a ruinously expensive business.
To our mind, it seems pretty extreme every time a field gets dug up to come in, but she's got the power just to sort of go around to the guy with a digger and say, enough's enough. We're coming in and we'll go very slowly and that's it. So she did say, basically, if you find something, you'd probably be quicker to go and find another site for the house.
Whilst the islanders are waiting for their new chaplain to take up his post, they're being looked after by caretaker priest, the Reverend Donald Marr. It's mid-November, and today is a key date in the calendar of the 5 inhabited islands that make up Scilly. As usual, Donald is racing between different churches on different islands. This is Remembrance Sunday, and on the smaller islands, the roll call of the dead from 2 world wars is short.
We now hear the names read of those who died.
But with such tiny populations, you quickly realise that in fact nearly every island family is touched by painful memories.
They shall grow not old as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years.
Later, back on the main island of St Mary's, Donald joins forces with the Methodist minister, the Reverend David Easton, to lead one of the island's biggest annual ceremonies. Ministers here play a big role in life outside the church as well as in it. This is an event at which every island organisation is represented. Despite its isolation on the western tip of Europe, Scilly has had a surprisingly eventful military history. During the Second World War, there was a hurricane fighter squadron based on a grass strip on what is now the heliport, guarding the western approaches to the English Channel. There were a surprisingly high number of casualties.
We praise and thank you for all who, in the comradeship of a true cause, counted not their lives dear to themselves, but laid them down for their friends. We will remember them. We keep silence.
Over on Tresco, they're having problems with cattle, or more precisely, a bull called Rambo. He has some kind of a muscular problem with his back legs, and because there's now no vet on the islands, the farmer hasn't a clue what to do.
So what's the matter with this bull, Paul?
He's got there's a proper name for it, but he's got a growth on his foot. He's actually got 2 growths. There's one between his claws, but he's now actually got one on his heel as well. It could have affected his serving the cows, getting the cows in calf. There's a ton of beef standing on the 2 feet, so if he's uncomfortable on his feet, when he's sort of doing his business, if you like.
Doing his duty.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. Yeah, he ain't going to want to be on top of the cow for very long.
He's looking a bit hangdog, isn't he, poor old chap?
Well, if he's not up to it, well, then he'll just have to go for beef. Yeah. He was quite an expensive bull. It's just one of those things.
There's been no vet on Scilly for the last 4 months, and now all kinds of problems are beginning to emerge. Up at the new riding stables on St Mary's, for example, some of the horses are worth many thousands of pounds.
This horse was injured a couple of weeks ago in the field. It was a kick wound to her shoulder. Unfortunately, it was quite a gash. It was probably about this size, and it really did need stitching, but of course without a vet here then we weren't able to do that. It was just across here. As you can see, it was quite a significant sized wound. But it's just a shame because it just, without proper medical treatment, these things take a lot longer to sort themselves out. It's a really worrying time for everybody, especially horse owners, people with cattle, because the logistics of getting an animal to the mainland for treatment is just out of the question, really. So, very worrying time for everybody.
What's so worrying is that despite advertising right across Europe, there's been little interest in the vacant vet's job. The government has turned down their request for a subsidy. And as winter approaches, it could be even harder to attract the right person. On the mainland, the chaplain in waiting, Father Guy, who used to work on a farm before becoming ordained, has been very aware of the vet crisis on Scilly. He's seeing out the last few weeks of his work as parish priest to Mullion and the surrounding villages on the South Cornish coast. And as the days go by, his thoughts are turning increasingly to the 5 islands 60 miles to the west, where he and his family will soon be starting their new lives.
Well, hello, Donald. It's Guy. Just wondering how you are.
He's already on the phone nearly every day to the islanders.
Oh, really? Wow.
Given the network of contacts he's already built up on Scilly, it's not surprising that Father Guy is one of the first to hear a dramatic piece of news, which could transform the lives of many of his new parishioners.
OK, have a good Christmas. Oh, OK, bye. We've heard some excellent news. Excellent news. They've found a vet.
They have found a vet?
Yes, apparently.
What, a permanent vet?
I think so. That's my understanding.
Wow, so that's... who is the vet? Who is he?
It's a German lady, I gather, who speaks very good English and is prepared to come and live on the Isles with her son, I gather.
Brilliant. Well, that's a huge relief.
It is. So Kate and the girls will be pleased because we've got 2 guinea pigs.
Oh, wow. Perfect,
So,
perfect
yeah.
timing. But for the farmers, that's a big thing.
Yeah, excellent, yeah.
"820 miles to the east of the Isles of Scilly, a small town in the heart of the Bavarian forests. Dr. Heike Dawn is a woman looking for a new adventure. Heike returned here 5 years ago after a stint working as a vet in southern England, and she's well known about town as a slightly eccentric Anglophile.
Ich hätte gern 4 Brezen und eine Käsebreze. Gut, wiederschauen.
But just recently, something she saw at the back of a veterinary magazine changed everything.
One of the ads was interesting because it started urgently needed. And then I read Scilly's, and I have been on a Scilly's before, some years before, just for vacation. And I thought, that would be lovely.
So then, how will you adjust to the oddities of island life?
I think it's very easy to adjust to it. You sit in your living room and look out of the window and see the Atlantic, you know. It's perfect. You have the whole bay in front of you. It's lovely. I'm a total, how do you say, a country person? Country dude. I would never be able to live in the city.
Heike will be moving into the vet's house at Old Town Bay on St. Mary's. It's an idyllic location.
You became a vet quite late in life, didn't you?
My parents wanted me to become a costume designer. And I was a very dutiful daughter, of course, and did what my parents said, but I always wanted to be a vet. It's just my parents thought it's not a good job for a girl. You know, you have to have your arm inside a cow's rectum the whole day and you will stink. So they didn't like it.
Heike has a 5-year-old son, Sammy, who'll go to the island school. and they're both crazy about all things